These are the stories of Careblazers, the stories of husbands, wives, sons, and daughters whose world is forever changed since caring for their loved one with dementia. You'll hear stories of heartbreak. You'll hear stories of love. These stories are real, raw, and powerful. I hope these stories show you you're not alone, and I hope they give you some inspiration and help as you go through your caregiving journey.
Debra, thank you so much for being with us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and who you care for.
So I'm 38. I'm a mom of 4. 2 of them are adults. They're 18 and 21, and 2 are teenagers, 15 and 16.
Whoa.
I'm a home educator, so I've been homeschooling my kids the entire time, and I've been married for 20 plus years.
Whoa.
We live in Hawaii, which is amazing. It's not my homeland, it's my husband's. And so we take care of my husband's grandma. She's 91. And we started taking care of her at our home after her husband died in January of 2020.
And at the time that you started caring for her in January 2020, did she already have a diagnosis of dementia? You knew what was happening? Okay.
Yeah, so they lived on the island with us, or around us, not too far. So we were always with them. When we lived on the mainland, we were always, with them. The family's really close. And so she is like the Portuguese Martha Stewart. She just always had an immaculate house, total amazing homemaker, took care of her husband, took care of her kids. So we moved to the island, and then they moved shortly after. And so I guess like in 2015, we started noticing a decline in her housekeeping skills. It wasn't super apparent to us until they moved from their house that they were in into a house that was actually across the street from us, which I was thankful that they were closer to us. And when we moved them out of their older house, we noticed a lot of things were untended that she normally would have never let go before. I think a lot of it, she might have been in a depression because they have an adult son who's was in his 50s at that time, in his 60s now, who was taking advantage of them financially and abusive. He's a drug addict. And they just, out of their tender, loving parent hearts, let him live with them forever. And he just took advantage. So I think a lot of her Alzheimer's symptoms in the beginning were masked by what we thought might have been depression or stress from dealing with him. So of course, when they moved next door to us, he moved next door to us, and we were able to notice the gravity of the situation with him. It was a horrible situation. We actually had to get APS involved and have him arrested several times. But they kept letting him in the door. So what can you do? So 2015, she stopped really driving. She was kind of scared to drive, so we didn't have to deal with give me the keys, I need to go to the store, which all of you have to deal with that, good job. We started noticing she was doing funny things, like she would use laundry soap for dish soap, which was scary, and vice versa. Actually, she would put dirty dishes away as if they were clean. The house they moved into was a vacation rental for our neighbors, so it came fully furnished, and we noticed like hoarding tendencies. She didn't want to get rid of the old people's stuff, and she didn't want to get rid of her stuff. So that house was just packed, and all of it became hers, and she was total hoarding, and that became unmanageable for Grandpa to deal with. So he kind of did the best he could with that. It was terrible, plus dealing with his son. And so I started taking them to the doctors around 2017 because we knew they were missing doctor's appointments. They were missing, they weren't paying their bills. So I kind of started taking that over and had her do the cognitive test where they tell you the story and have her try to reiterate it. She couldn't. So that's when we went to the geriatrician, and she got her diagnosed towards the middle or end or so of 2017. And our geriatrician is amazing. Before I found you, she was my lifeline, and she still is in many ways. She's amazing.
That's great. So that was the first time, 2017, your mother-in-law got the diagnosis.
Yeah, my grandmother-in-law. Yeah.
Your grandmother-in-law. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
do
you understand what that was going to entail, or had you ever heard that diagnosis before?
I had both my maternal great grandmas dealt with Alzheimer's, and to one degree or the other when I was little. So I kind of knew what that meant. Plus I have my associates is in neuropsychology. Oh, nice. And so I had, just book read training on it, which I never thought I would ever use, because I stopped my education to homeschool my kids. And now I'm like, oh, that's why I did that.
Right.
Go back to that. So I had a little bit of an idea, and didn't really know what the details were going to be, but I kind of knew what the future was going to look like a little. Didn't know we were going to end up taking care of her, but we're able to jump on board pretty quick.
Yeah. And you mentioned her husband has passed away now.
Yeah. This is one of the tragedies. So he ended up having to go into the hospital because of their son kept unplugging his oxygen machine after he had a stroke. And so we ended up having to put the son in jail, and grandpa ended up going to the hospital, and the doctor wouldn't release him because they refused to keep Dennis out of the house. And so anyway, grandpa was in the hospital till the day he died for 6 months.
6 months. Was your grandma-in-law able to visit?
So yeah, she was able to get back and forth to the hospital. Sometimes her son would bring her. Sometimes other family members who lived on the island would pick her up and bring her. She never really understood what was going on with him. She always just was like, oh yeah, he's coming home. She never really understood how long he had been in there. I was with him the last week, the whole time until he died, and she came in just a couple times. But what was happening was because APS wasn't getting into that house often enough, and we weren't getting into that house often enough, she wasn't eating. And so she dropped like 40 pounds in those 6 months.
Wow.
And so
where is she living? Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I just was noticing when she would come in, if grandpa had a plate out, she would pack all the food into her purse. And yeah, it was a ride.
Wow. So where is she living now? Like, is she living with somebody, or?
She's with us. So grandpa died January 2020. COVID was starting. We're like, what's going on? I had her all day. I would pick her up and I would take her with me, and I would just feed her. I would just feed her as much food as I could pile in her tiny little body, and take her wherever I could just to keep her out all day. And I did that until March. And I ended up when I would buy groceries, the son would take them into his room and not give them to her. I would buy toilet paper. He would take them into his room. I would find no toilet paper, and I had just bought it. So I had bought groceries one day, and I told him, look, this needs to last a week. He got all irate, pushed, come to shove. I left with her that day. So she's with us.
Wow.
Yeah, she's been with us since March of 2020. So we built her her own area. She has her own bedroom. She, but now her TV has always been her best friend, and now it's her everything. So I try to get her up helping me do the dishes or laundry as much as I can, and then we'll walk down. We have 3 acres, so we'll walk down as often as the rain will let us down to the end of the property and back. But she has a lazy boy, and she is happy there.
So she's adjusted pretty well to the change.
No. It was
Talk
hard.
about that adjustment.
It's still hard. In the beginning, she was the one who was saying, I want to go home.
Yeah.
I can go home now. I can take care of myself. I know, Grandma, but we need you here. I need your help with the kids. And I know. And at that point, she remembered that Grandpa had died. But then she kept asking for her son. Well, I can go live with him. I can go live with him. Totally delusional on how horrible that situation was. Always, even before she was in cognitive decline, in denial. And that's a mother's love, I guess. And so, yeah, so that was a rough 6 months, the first 6 months. The biggest part was for me not taking things seriously, because a lot of bad words come out of that mean girl.
Was that always her personality before, or is that a change? Okay.
It was, you always knew it was, like when you have a group of 5 friends and you know the one you can't confide in. She was always real kind on the outside, and yeah, so trying not to take that too seriously was really difficult. I can't tell you how many nights I cried myself to sleep.
Just because she would say mean things. Yeah.
Horrible mean things. Like when she first started declining, it was for me always, I don't know why, I would be stealing her muumuus, always stealing her muumuus. I do not even wear muumuus. Plus I'm 5'9" and she's 5'3". And so always things like that. I've read a lot of stories where it seems like the one who has the hardest time with their loved one ends up being the caregiver.
Right.
That's okay. Yeah. So, and even still, so after the year went by, she stopped asking about her son, but then she forgot that her husband died. And it went from her thinking he's living in their old house without blankets, without food, totally cold and afraid, to now she's graduated to he's completely abandoned her. This is only within the last couple of weeks. He's completely abandoned her. He's off living his best life, and he just dropped her off here and doesn't want anything to do with her. So that's difficult. I've tried breaking the delusion by saying he's somewhere else. That does not work. Her delusions are so negative that I found what works for us is remembering her that he's dead.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. I would like to let her live in a happy delusion where he's just off bulldozing like he always was. That would be great. But living in a negative delusion like that is just not profitable for her. So
how does she respond when you remind her?
She's pretty good. She'll cry. It's not like a grieving cry though, because she cries all the time. If I'm not with her, she's crying. Constant. Like it's a constant cry. But so when I go in there to break the delusion, because there's only so far I'll let it go, I'll tell her, and she has this little dog named Fifi, and she has gotten really good, and I think it's because of her abuse with the son, at reading Fifi. And she also subscribes all her feelings to Fifi. So if she's feeling hungry, Fifi's hungry. If she's feeling sad, Fifi's sad. So that's been really a helpful thing for me once I caught on to that. And so when I go in there, if she's in her delusion, so she'll instantly stop crying and she'll say, yeah, Fifi, yeah, and make like nothing. But then I'll tell her, no, Grandma, I heard you talking about Grandpa. What were you saying? And she's like, I just don't know where he is. And I tell her, Grandma, you know where he is. Where is he? And she'll point up.
Yes. And
I'll say, yeah, see, he just died. He didn't abandon you. He just died. Yeah. He's waiting for you or whatever. I try to, but then I'll leave the room and she'll start crying. And sometimes it's a sob, dry cry, but when it's the real wet cry, I'll go in there and hug her until she lets go, which can be a while. Which that's okay. And when I try to console her, get her to do something, I'll just touch her. I'll touch her leg. That seems to really help.
Yeah. Awesome. I think what you're highlighting here is every person's different, and the best way to respond to your loved one is by trying things out and seeing how they respond. Trying to not tell your mom that he was actually dead by giving her another reason you discovered didn't work well for her, and telling her the truth actually was better. So I think that's a really good thing to highlight is you don't really know the best approach to take with your loved one until you try it and see how they respond.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was, I really wanted to leave her in a good delusion, just couldn't do it because they weren't profitable for mental,
right. So I'm just thinking, how are you doing it? I mean, I know you have 4 kids, 2 are adults, they're probably self-sufficient for the most part, 2 teenagers. I mean, how are you managing all of this? Plus a home and just, what do you do?
Well, I have to give all the credit to God for giving me energy, because I sure couldn't do it on my own energy. He gives me all his energy. On a more physical plane is self-care. That first year was rough because I felt so bad about self-care. You're not supposed to equate your loved one with dementia with a brand new baby, but in this way I do, because I felt like this, like with my first baby, she's going to stop breathing if I leave the room. And that's kind of the anxiety I had with grandma, is that if I did one thing wrong, who knows what would happen. I didn't know. And I was learning her disease, the functionality of her disease, because everybody's is different. And so I had to learn that. And so the first year there was no self-care until I found your videos and all these Careblazers that normalized caregiving and normalized self-care and gave permission for self-care. That is how I get by. Is it's 8 o'clock, grandma is healthy, fed, happy, content, and I can give her a big, big hug and she can still turn off the TV, and it's okay for me to come in my room and, be okay. And my children are amazing. My adult daughter just came home from college, so she hasn't really seen the brunt of it, but she's been helping out a lot. But my 14, almost 15-year-old, she's amazing. And my boys just kick in when I need them, and they'll notice when I'm kind of at my end and they'll watch grandma while I can go to the grocery store. I used to take grandma a lot, but she's having a harder time walking around. So I COVID. So I take her, can't take her. I get some dirty looks. I would love to take her all the time, but I get dirty looks. Why are you having this 91-year-old lady out here? But yeah, I would just say God and self-care and my family.
Yeah. So what do you think was the main barrier to self-care? Was it mostly just anxiety and not understanding you could leave your grandma? Or was it more like guilt of feeling like you shouldn't?
It was more the anxiety of, if I'm gone and something happens, I can't live with the guilt of that. I was exactly like that with my kids too. Well, I can't leave them alone or I can't enjoy talking on the phone with my friend or whatever, because if they jump off their bed and hit their head, just all these things going through your mind. And so I think that was it, just the anxiety of if something happened, I just couldn't live with my own blowback.
Yeah. And so the self-care now, it sounds like it's a lot of just taking time for yourself. Like, it is okay to leave her side and just to have time for you to do whatever.
I remember my first self-care day. I decided I would start running again. I used to be really athletic. I would teach yoga and I would take my kids all over the island, and I used to do all that stuff and took care of grandma. Here comes the Alzheimer's 20. And so I decided to start running again. And I remember your video about vitamin N and turning off the music and listening to nature. I turned off my music and I was running, and I cried my entire 2 miles, listening to myself be me, finally. And I felt so fresh and clean and free and happy and like myself. And that was my first self-care. And I think it took almost a year to have permission to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. is it a struggle now? Like when you go to do self-care or whatever it is, like, do you like sometimes get that tinge of anxiety or worry or question yourself whether you should do it?
I do. It'll be about 8 o'clock and, or it'll be like 7:30, and we'll always watch Wheel of Fortune. She had a hygiene problem, so I had to create a really good schedule. And so after her hygiene hour, then we'll eat and then we'll watch Wheel of Fortune or vice versa. And so if I've had a really strenuous day, not just with her, but everything else, I'll be really tired at 7:30 and really ready to just kind of be in my own thoughts. And I'll have to hold in there like, no, she's got to have that schedule, so probably just now it's more of the anxiety of, if I don't hold to the schedule, she might have a decline, which has happened.
Okay. Talk to us about this. I think this is probably something a lot of Careblazers are dealing with right now. Talk about hygiene schedule, how you worked through that.
Yeah, so that was really difficult when we first got her. She wasn't bathing at all. It was really difficult. I remember I felt like kind of like Ruth at Boaz's feet, washing his feet, just at my grandma's feet, just, her nails were overgrown. She had a bunch of problems with her feet just from not being able to wash them herself. She would wash her underwear in the sink because she didn't know how to do laundry anymore. And she had gotten into these really terrible, almost feral habits. Mm-hmm. And it took a really long time to be in there watching her and getting her out of those habits and trying to do that to keep her dignity, because she still is a woman. She still is 91. She still has, she doesn't know she's sick. Yeah. She thinks what she's doing is absolutely appropriate. Right. And so getting her out of doing those habits was really difficult. I would have to, and that's when those bad words would really start flying. And so I started noticing and remembering from when I came into the family, I was only 16, and watching her, she was always regimented, always scheduled. And I started trying to implement that. Maybe if we had some muscle memory that would kick in, which helped a lot. So she set her day by her TV shows her whole life. 10:30, you watch Price is Right, then you watch your soap opera, then you do lunch, then you watch Westerns, and then you get the house ready for your husband to come home, then it's dinner and Wheel of Fortune. So I started scheduling around Price is Right and Wheel of Fortune. And okay, Grandma, well, do you want to take a shower before or after Wheel of Fortune? Giving her choice. So she didn't feel like I was like, okay, it's going to be Wheel of Fortune, let's go take a shower.
Right.
And then telling her, it's okay, Grandma, I got the laundry today. Don't worry. You don't have to worry about your panty. I got the laundry today. Oh, I noticed you're wearing your pants. It's been about 2 days. Would you like me to wash them? Oh yeah. You know which one is mine. And at first I was like taking offense, like, oh, of course I do. But then I started being like, joking with her because she loves to joke. I realized that, and being like, no, I don't know. And then she would like laugh and be like, oh, Debbie, whatever.
Yes, that's beautiful.
So this
that's
schedule
awesome.
Kicked in like really well. And actually, if I am a little late, like if I have to, we own our own construction company. So if I have to be doing something with that and I don't get home till 7, the kids will tell me that at 6:30, and she doesn't read the clock. It's just she gets up and she's in the shower.
Oh, wow. How long did it take you to go from where her habits weren't so great to she's now in a routine?
I would say a good 9 months to a year before she got into the routine and stopped cursing me out.
Wow. Yeah. So you have a lot of patience there too. You didn't give up and you stuck with it.
Stick with it. You harden your skin as much as you can, and don't feel bad about having to go help them. I felt bad, like I was breaking her dignity if she would have a incontinent, like a diarrhea problem. Right. And she would be so shamed, and I didn't want to make her more shame, but I realized if I did nothing, that's more worse than not do anything. And so I would go in there and I'm like, Grandma, it's just us chickens. She just laughs at that. And I'll just say, it's just us chickens. And I'm going to help you, okay? Because this is a new bathroom in the beginning. This is a new bathroom or whatever. And I'm going to help you. And it's just us chickens. And, you know, so I noticed that it's like when I was toilet training my kids, you may not want my help, but I'm here and you're dealing with it. And I love you. And that's how it's going to be. And with her, you have to have a little bit more tact. She's 91, you know, so you're like just trying to be their friend, you know.
Yeah.
Being there for her.
You handled that really amazing. Do you have like a schedule that she has to refer to on the wall, or is it just so ingrained now? You prompt her, or don't even need a prompter now. She just knows.
Yeah, she'll do it most of the time. I notice her retention, I feel like it's more of a muscle memory, is about 3 days. Mm-hmm. And then she'll start reverting back. She won't even think about taking a bath or a shower. Mm-hmm. She won't even think about brushing her teeth. She has denture. She actually got thrush. I had to take that over, helping her. She'll brush her teeth like normal, but she won't take her dentures out. So once every 2 days, I'll be like, okay, Grandma, time to brush your teeth. I can do it. Well, I know you can, but the doctor wants to make sure you don't get thrush again. And so we'll go through that. But yeah, it's about 3 days only, maybe, that she'll retain whatever schedule memory she has.
Yeah. I think the overall theme I'm getting from you right now, which I think a lot of Careblazers could benefit from, is like you were a really great observer and kind of a detective of putting things together. Like you realized, you know what? I noticed she always kept her house in a good condition. You know what? I noticed she always planned her days around her TV shows. How can I take what I know about her past and apply it to her life right now? Like, and you didn't give up after it didn't work the first month, second month, third month, fourth month. Yeah. Right? You stuck with it. But what it does show too is that you can, even if their memory is poor, they can start to make those associations. Wheel of Fortune goes with bath, or you know what I mean? So I think that's such a, just kudos to you for sticking with it, for putting that information together. It's wonderful. Even putting together the information of the dog, you know, like Fifi is actually Grandma, like however Fifi's, you know, feeling. And so it's just really creative, outside of the box thinking. And so that's great. Thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I think was eating. She really stopped really being hungry or like wanting to drink water, not hungry, not thirsty. When I got her, she was 108 pounds. I got her to be 116 pounds. Now she's back to 108 pounds. She has some underlying issues though that are causing the weight loss now, but I started noticing that her shadowing was happening when she was hungry.
Oh.
Her shadowing was happening when she was hungry, or she would tell Fifi, you're getting skinny, Fifi. You need to eat. So, but then I would put food in front of her. I'm not hungry. That's okay. It's lunchtime. Let's go have lunch. And I would eating with her is key. Yeah. Big key.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal too.
That's awesome. Yeah. Good work on finding all that out. Now for her appointments now, does she still meet and follow up with like geriatric physicians, neurologists, things like that for her dementia?
Yeah. So her geriatrician counsels with her every 6 months.
Okay.
And counsels with me in the in-between, or whenever I call them. Like, okay, we've kind of met a new milestone. I think you should be aware of this. You know, then they'll instantly call me. And she's even on another island, and she's just so good at just her team. Grandma's caregiving team is amazing. Medically.
That's great. That's amazing. So great to hear. And it's nice to know like they're working with you as well. Like you can call them, you can update them in between appointments, and they're actually going to listen and work with you.
I think they know we don't have very much support.
Yeah.
We don't, on the islands, there's no support really. There's no respite. There's the respite that there is so expensive. And so the geriatrician is so keen on that she just jumps in and her staff too is just willing to listen. And sometimes that's all I need is to bend an ear.
Yes, that's wonderful. So if share with Careblazers what resources, besides a great healthcare team, like having somebody who at least can provide some great healthcare to your loved one with dementia, what other resources did you use? Did you go to that helped you in your situation?
I really didn't. I would watch YouTube videos, and UCLA, before I found you, actually, now I do remember how I found you. UCLA has these dementia videos that they do like play acting.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen them. Yeah. And so they'll give you the wrong way to do it and then the right way to do it. And that, okay, this is what I'm doing wrong. I gotta not change her, change me. Not change her, change me. Not change her, change me. Then that's when one of your videos popped up, I'm pretty sure. And that's how I found you. And that's it. You guys, our co-blazers on the caregiving Facebook group is just so amazing. And I just love how they're all just so upbeat and right there with everybody and not having sympathy, but having empathy, because they are feeling exactly the same. But that's really all, because like I said, there's no resources here on the island, and I know there's hardly any for anybody else.
Right.
So really just you guys and our medical team. And I have to just do a quick shout out if I could. This grandma's daughter is my husband's mom, but she doesn't get to be on this island. And I just want to say she's a careblazer in her own right, just trying to be there from 3,000 miles away.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Careblazers for sure. Near and far, long distance caregiving is a thing. Even if it's, I always think like support to the careblazer who is in person, like just to be able to listen and hear them out. And that's a huge, huge support that a lot of people don't have. So yeah, let's give a shout out to her.
Yeah, thank you.
What else does she do? Like, talk from your experience. How has she helped long distance? Because that might help other people too.
She was pivotal in getting, and I just implore people to do this, get the power of attorney done, get the will done, get all your paperwork done as quickly as you can. I know it can be very challenging to find the resources. If you qualify for financial aid to help to do that, do it. If in any means you can, get all that paperwork done. And my mother-in-law was pivotal in doing that. She's lucky to be in a background that she works with in an elderly facility with some respect, and so she knew the right language. And so she got as much as she could figured out on the mainland, and she came here and had it all ready, appointments ready, everything ready. And then when we were making the decision to put grandma in a foster or what option we had, she was pivotal in being like, yeah, we want her to be cared for. I wanted to care for grandma, and she was pivotal in saying, yes, let's do it. And just been there when I need to call her, even though, it's hard because they're not in the thick of it to understand what the caregiver sees. She listened and she was there, and it's her mom. And, so that's a bigger tie. And so just her thick skin just kicked in and was she was one of my resources, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. That's beautiful. And what something she did that I think any long distance caregiver, or if you're a careblazer providing hands-on care and somebody is long distance wanting to offer you help, something they could do is arrange some of those appointments if possible, like set those things up.
It takes a village. If someone has that skill set and they're willing to jump in, you do not have to take it all on your own shoulders, and you do not have to feel like they're going to cash in chips later, because they don't feel like that. At least in my experience, the people who've helped I don't feel like they're going to cash in chips later. They're just they're there to help, genuinely there to help.
That's interesting you say that, because yesterday I was talking to a careblazer on one of these interviews, and I think that's a real fear. I forget her exact quote, and it was something to the effect of, I know that I should be accepting help or asking for help, but I'm afraid. Oh no, she said, I want to save up my asks for when I really, really need them. As if there was like a time when somebody would say, I've already helped you 3 times, I'm done. So she was like, I don't want to accept that help right now. What if I really need it in the future? And so to me, that was like, wow, that's really a fear for some people to have.
It's in the back of my head sometimes, but you can't let people's offer for help be the little black dress in your closet that never gets worn. You just can't. You have to. Look, God knows what you need at the time. Take it. He can send you 3 boats. If you don't get on them, you're going to drown. Take one of them.
Right.
Do it. You have to do it. Be wise and tactful. Obviously, understand who's offering the help and for what reason. But if you can, by all means, you should take it.
That's great. Wonderful. I think that's so helpful for a lot of people to hear. Your self-care message, you're being a detective and creative and like an observation, and then like being willing to accept help that comes to you. That's huge. All really big 3 lessons. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is there anything I haven't asked that you want to share, or something that you want to talk about we haven't touched on yet?
I don't think so. I just really wanted to, mainly hammer it down that everybody's situation is different and it's all going to be an uphill road. So put on your walking shoes.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I'm glad to hear you're back to self-care. And I hope that you've been able to maintain some of that in some way. Get yourself some vitamin N, and just really appreciate you sharing your story. Any last, biggest piece of advice, recommendation, anything you can tell a Careblazer who's just starting out on this journey? What would you say to them?
Well, I wrote down all my notes.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Those are good notes. Let's take some time, review them, and see if there's anything in there you want to share.
Let's see. I think the main thing is that I wrote this for this question, the piece of advice to give others is it's okay to remember who is really in charge of your life. And it's okay to think, this is not how I wanted my life to be.
Right.
And it is absolutely important to remember that your life is this way and you're in this caregiving position because you are the one qualified to do it. Yeah. And always remember that. Always remember that. You're the one that took charge. You're the one that stepped in. You don't have all the answers. You weren't born a caregiver, but you're here and you can do it because you're the one that was put there to do it.
I love it. Now you mentioned like reminding yourself, like you have it, like you can figure this out. Did you ever get any situation where pushback or questioning your decisions or from other people where you had a lot of doubt or it was hard for you to move forward?
What was hard to move forward was finding the balance between my homeschooling and grandma's, in the beginning, the negativity. Okay. Because if she would be in the living room and we would be homeschooling at the table and she would be looking in and she would be mumbling pretty unreally underneath her breath. That took a while. I started wondering what kind of impact it was having on my kids to see their grandma be so angry and kind of vile in certain ways. And I questioned, okay, would it be better if we put her in a foster care? But as soon as I would say that, I had to swallow it because I knew it wasn't. I knew it wasn't for our situation in Hawaii. They're so full and they're doing the best they can. And so to keep her home would be the best for us. And so that was when I was really questioning myself is this right for my kids? So we had to problem solve. And so instead of grandma watching her Westerns in the afternoon in the living room while we're doing homeschooling, we had to move her TV into her bedroom. We moved her recliner into her bedroom, which is right next to where we were doing homeschooling, but that wall somehow created this barrier. Well, she had her own space. She didn't feel like she could see us, but yet we were ignoring her.
Yeah.
So we had just had to problem solve our way around that. I was ready to quit, but we had to problem solve that.
Yeah.
So,
did you have open conversations with your kids about what was going on with grandma and all that? Okay.
we did, because when I would go to the grocery store, she would be in her room or in her chair, before we put her in her room, in her chair in the living room, saying mean things about me. I abandoned her. Her abandonment complex is pretty huge. And the kids, and they would give her water, and she would call everybody a-holes or whatever. And so they would talk to me about that. And at the beginning, I didn't know not to reprimand. So I would go to grandma and I'd be like, Grandma, you cannot be saying these bad words to your grandkids. You got to be a good grandma. You cannot be doing that.
That's totally fine to say. Like, for some people.
If it makes a difference, by all means, if you could tactfully do it, but it made no difference for her. She would instantly forget. It was like you say, sometimes watch out so you don't ruin your relationship with your loved one. And it was creating, cause she's got a strong personality. Like, she is the head honcho, and it was creating this, I'm not listening to her.
Right.
type of mentality in her. So I stopped doing that and had, started telling the kids, it's not grandma, it's the disease, how she was before this happened. You just remember that. And you remember this is not her. This is a veil of negativity that this disease has put on her. And then problem solve. And so if you guys are giving her water and saying, Grandma, you need to drink this water, she is not going to respond to you very well. If you bring her ice water and you also have your ice water and you tell her, okay, Grandma, this is my 4th one. What number is this for you? Changes the whole dynamic.
Beautiful. Love it.
So just problem solve and be creative and funny. Yeah. You can be intelligent and comical at the same time.
Love it. Love it. Now, does she still use those words as often, or because they've been more pleasant interactions, they've kind of declined?
They have declined quite a bit. I think she says maybe 2 or 3 bad words a day, maybe, rather than 20.
Yeah, that's huge though. I mean, I think that's the number one has got to be one of my top 3 recommendations, I would think, is just keep in mind the relationship. Like, even if they don't remember specifically what you may have said or done, like, whatever you can do to make it a pleasant interaction is going to pay off in the end. Like, for your, grandma, okay, maybe instead of 20 a-holes, I get 3 today. Like, that's something, so.
Progress. Yeah. And remember that if she's going to forget those emotions in 5 minutes, you may as well too.
Yeah. Wow.
Don't hold on to it.
Yeah. Do you have any, how do you get good at that? I know some people might be struggling with, like, keeping it, like, it's really painful. Did you have to work at, like, being able to let it go?
Yeah, I really did.
Yeah.
I really did. And, I just started smiling a lot.
Mm-hmm.
In everything that I would say to her, I would smile. She reads emotions on my face. And obviously I have the type of face where I have 100,050 emotions on my face all the time. So, it's hard not to know what I'm thinking even if I'm not talking. And so I just started smiling and I started making a joke out of it. And then that helped me, I know, way more than it helped her. Just making a joke out of it. But yeah, I really had to work on it because I was holding that like some baggage. I would not have been able to get on an airplane. It was just so heavy. It was just crazy heavy. And that was hurting me. It was hurting me thriving in this situation. Not only her thriving, she's happy, healthy, fed, and calm, but am I? If I'm holding on to this, am I making my caregiving the best caregiving possible? Because I'm not just doing it for her.
Right. Right. Oh, it's so good, Debra. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your experience and your story. And thank you for what you're doing for your grandma. Like, she's definitely in really great hands. And a lot of Careblazers are going to get help from this, I know.
Wow. I just am so thankful for them, for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Careblazers. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.